So this will be the code walkthrough version of the Android and Flutter communication over the basic message channel using the default Flutter Android app, no fragments, which means we end up doing something a little different. So as I said in the previous one, this is going to be a floating, I'm going to show you the code. I'm sorry, this is the code after a quick demo. Floating action button on Flutter main, press as an on-press handler. That actually calls an increment function inside the Flutter app. The Flutter app then posts a message to the basic message channel, which is picked up by the Android app, and it pops a toast and it does a log message. It turns out if we have an on-touch event and anywhere not in the Flutter app, which is a very tiny area, it's actually this area right here. And if we do that, the on-touch, we're actually going to post an action increment inside the Android app, and the Android app's actually going to post some message called action increment to the basic message channel. So we have two messages, action incremented and action incremented. And that's the JSON format of that. That'll run through the same thing, causing the button to be, causing the counter to be incremented. And then whenever it's incremented, it posts an incremented message with the current count. So that's what we're going to demonstrate here. And I'm just going to show you this. So every time I click on this, we get an Android toast pop up here. And why is that? That's because it receives a message every time we increment the counter. The Android code receives it, and that's actually what we're going to look at in a minute. So I press the button, Android receives a message. Whenever I do an on touch here, we actually increment it outside of the Flutter. We actually post a message to the Flutter app, and then the Flutter app posts a message whenever it's done, and the same toast handler handles it. So let me just show you what the code looks like here. So in the Android code, it's actually super straightforward, right? We have to send a message and receive a message. So here we have a basics message channel with a handler on it, and it actually says Android received, and it gets a message, and that's going to be the did increment or the incremented message. So whenever Flutter posts a message, this handler will get called, and it's because we are using this action channel. We use the same channel for both, and I know some mobile people don't like that. They use a different channel for each. I am not a mobile person, so I didn't do that. And here's the message. Okay, so, and then we're going to get this message. We're going to make it. We're going to make the toast pop, and then we'll do a reply. Now, whenever we actually press, I'll show you the handler for this. We're going to send this message, action increment, and the source was Android. And if you look down here, all I did is I added an on-touch event handler in the main activity. So I didn't touch anything in the main activity besides putting these two handlers. Whenever we have created the channel again, we shouldn't have done that. Probably should have had a singleton in here or something at the top of the activity, but I'm not a Android developer, so I made this code as obvious as possible. And whenever there's an action down event, and again, that's the only area where Flutter isn't, because Flutter takes over the control everywhere else, we just do a channel send on the message that I have above, and we log the fact that we got an action down. And that's why you see what we see here, right? That's these messages here. So that's what all we did in the Android app. We have this basic message channel, set a message handler, and we have basic message channel when we get an action down event. In the Dart code, it's really almost as simple. If I can find it, I should have left this like this. So if we scroll down in here, we see we're going to use the same action, right? We need the same string because we're in a completely different system. We're in Dart now. And whenever only thing we have to do on the Dart side is actually the increment. And so, where is it? Right here we do if we're in the web, we're doing a window message handler. But if we're not in the web, which would be the mobile, Android, and iOS, we're going to set a message and we're going to listen for a native event. And if we come down here and we look at listen for native event, what we're doing is we are looking to see if we get an increment message, and if we do, we call increment counter. Right? So that's it. Oh, I guess the only other thing we had done was we have an on press in here. Where is it? Boop, doop, doo, 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 doo. Oh, in the build method. We're going to put it down here. We can see we have a floating action button that does an increment. And then when we get down here, we're going to post the action message. We do a post native when we're in the Android app, and the native code is right here. Man, that was pretty. I should have had extra tabs up. Anyway, you get the idea here. So whenever we're going to post an action native, we say action is, the source is Flutter, and we're going to add the payload to this message, and we do a basic message channel, and we do a send. We don't wait for any replies because there's no replies in this app. So that's it. That's how the code works for, let's pull the Android in, this application with the minimum amount of changes. I would actually use fragments in Android, but we didn't do that. And so here, this is the smallest possible app, really, that does bidirectional messaging between Android and Flutter. Have a great day.